Thank you, Bethany. Dame Priti Patel, the Shadow Foreign Secretary, joins me in the studio now. Good morning.
Good morning.
Lovely to see you. I think you caught the end of the Sarah Jones interview where she was talking about this national police force. I remember you using some terminology about the FBI of the UK when you founded the National Crime Agency.
So it's actually October 2020. The National Crime Agency is an outstanding law enforcement organisation, and we gave them more resources and more powers to work on international crime, which is what they do very well, and obviously the Home Secretary has all the authorisations around their work. So that covers drug trafficking, money laundering, people smuggling, firearms. They do that work already. And in fact, Camilla, you may have written about this previously. We had a big operation called Operation Venetic during the pandemic, where the largest amount of cash sums and drugs were seized. That's through the National Crime Agency doing international work with all our partners based on intelligence and information sharing. So it sounds to me we've got to see the real details, because all we've read is a government press release where they've just slapped this headline on it, FBI of the UK, it already is, and, you know, show respect to the people there working and doing this great work. So it sounds to me like they're trying to basically set up new regional policing and, you know, basically just put more bureaucracy around policing and take it away from local communities. And don't forget, Camilla, this is a Labour government that has reduced the number of police officers by 1,300 in England and Wales. We also have a Labour government that did not support, when they're in opposition, any of our police reforms, the 20,000 police officers, the money that we put in for safer streets, for tasers, stop and search, important police powers. So it sounds to me like they're moving away from community policing, neighbourhood policing. And the public, they do not want regional police headquarters where the cops are all sitting at their desks looking at laptops and computer screens. They want their cops out in their communities, neighbourhood policing, safer streets, all the important things.
She's saying they're going to recruit 13,000 more officers.
Well, they've just cut back police officer numbers, and they've hardly got any money as well. And don't forget, a lot of the budget allocations around policing will be consumed by the costs of literally employing police officers, high national insurance, all those types of things.
Yes.
So it's not actually going to aggregate into new police officers, new resourcing and new money to tackle crime.
Okay.
And that's why, while they're also doing terrible things to the criminal justice system, like abolishing trial by jury and letting offenders out from prison early.
Well, you may get a climb down on the Chagos Islands. Tell us about this, because we've got the Tories having pointed out that there was a 1966 treaty.
Yeah.
Why hasn't Keir Starmer and Lord Hermer, who both love international treaties, been across this? But the criticism of you could be, well, look, the Tories, why did you even entertain the idea while you were in government of selling out these islands?
Well, let me start with that first, because I wasn't in government, and, you know, they were preliminary talks and discussions off the back of what was an arbitrary legal judgment. But, of course, that's a world away from what has happened since. There's now a treaty and a bill in Parliament, and it's through the scrutiny of this bill. And by the way, we're the ones, my party, have forced every single line of question, 160 written parliamentary questions. I've forced opposition day debates on this with the government because they've avoided all scrutiny. So your point about Mr. Weak Keir Starmer and Mr. International Human Rights Lawyer, Lord Hermer, they have failed on all of this because they've just wanted to wave it through, you know, focusing on the rights of the Mauritian government and giving them away money. And it's the treaty, 1966 treaty, which I referred to in Parliament last Tuesday in the debate, which basically says that Chagos is British and you know, the Americans have to be consulted on this.
All right.
And that basically lifted the lid off the Pandora's box and now has exposed the government, not just on the 1966 treaty, but the fact that Mauritius now has to consent on all sorts of aspects of any military operations on the base of Diego Garcia.
All right, so you've been doing that kind of like legislative manoeuvre in Parliament. You have to concede, though, that it's Nigel Farage what won it on GB News with pressuring the US Speaker, Mike Johnson, when he was in on Monday. Hang on a minute. This is the timeline. He interviews Mike Johnson, has a word with him saying, are you aware of this whole, the true nature of the Chagos Islands surrender? Because, of course, Donald Trump had previously said he was OK with it all. Then on the Tuesday, we get Donald Trump saying it's an act of great stupidity. And now we're having this bill unravel, admittedly because of the treaty, but you have to accept that Reform and Nigel Farage, and indeed this great news channel, have done some heavy lifting on this.
So your channel has, and I've been on this programme many times talking about it, I do not accept that proposition at all, because it is diplomacy behind the scenes involving my party as well, and conversations with Speaker Johnson. We've had conversations with Speaker Johnson about this too. And it's not just him. I've had engagement with the State Department in America. We have Conservatives in Washington that have been making the case to the White House. So I think it's absolutely misleading, if I may say so. This isn't about who takes credit. My party believes in standing up for Britain and our national interests and our national security. We understand this. I've done it professionally as Home Secretary, and I understand the intelligence sharing and the way in which we work with the United States. This is not a flippant matter at all. This is deadly serious. And I don't think this is about who takes credit. There's a lot of painful work, a lot of forensic work that has taken place on this. That not politicians don't necessarily have to stand up and brag about it. We've done the work, and I will continue to make that case.
It might be handy for people who have got Donald Trump's ear to be whispering in it that there's a great surrender going on that he needs to stop. Will he stop it now? I mean, this is down to the US, because the US needs to say to the UK,
so
look
let's
at
just
this treaty.
So the government is now in a serious situation, because they've had to pull a debate from Parliament on Monday on this, and it is because of the 66 treaty and the details that we've put out on this. They will have to now go back and discuss this with the United States of America. So the Americans and us will absolutely continue to put pressure on. None of us know what America will do on this. You know, we're not in government, but we will continue to do the advocacy and continue to make the forensic points. There are other aspects to this about nuclear weapons now residing at Diego Garcia. We've done the work on that, and America, rightly so, are deeply concerned. There are conversations taking place, is what I would say. Quiet diplomacy with the administration, and we are involved in that.
After the week we've had, can Trump be trusted? You're a Trump fan, but presumably some things he's said this week, not least at Davos and not least about our own troops in Afghanistan, have given you pause for thought.
Well, let me just say this. We absolutely call out the wrong comments and appalling comments from President Trump. We wouldn't hesitate in doing that. And I think, you know, that's the right approach. They're our closest ally. When it came to his remarks about British Armed Forces and our personnel, that was outrageous, appalling and wrong. And do not forget, we know the history, Camilla, as to why Article 5 was triggered in 2001. The sacrifices. I represent a constituency where we're not far from 16th Air Assault Brigade. The paratroopers went on numerous tours in Afghanistan. I've had constituents who lost their lives. So this is very raw in our communities and across our country. And the fundamental point there is that we were fighting for our shared security, and we would always stand by that and do that. It's right that we call President Trump out when he makes wrong comments, appalling comments about our country and about our efforts, where we have absolutely stood up and done the right thing for our global and collective security.
So you still generally support him, but you have reservations about some of the stuff
America's
he says.
Our closest ally, and I can tell you now, the cooperation that we have around intelligence, security, Five Eyes is first class, and we must always maintain that. And also, we have an incredible people-to-people relationship as well. You know, that's in the trillions when it comes to trade, but also just on the people-to-people transactions. It's a very, very significant relationship, and it shouldn't be. That should never be overshadowed by appalling comments that have been made. We've all made the point as to what we think about his
Let's
approach.
just move on to domestic politics and indeed the Tory party. Robert Jenrick, quite nasty about you when he defected, said that you were happy with immigration going up, referring to that Harry Cole interview where you said you were happy with that graph with an upwards trajectory on it.
No, well, I didn't say I was happy with it. But let me just say something about this, first of all. I think people can see the content of his character by the way in which he just sort of blames everybody else for the past. He was also a Home Office minister and takes no responsibility. My party's moved on from all of that. We really have. Your viewers are not interested in political egos and psychodramas in political parties. Look at the work of the Conservative Party in opposition. We've forced the government into 14 U-turns on major issues that the British public care about. We are not interested in psychodrama or vexatious comments and people with their own agendas. And that doesn't help to put money in people's pockets and solve the big issues.
We're still on defection watch, aren't we? I mean, others could go. I was hearing over the weekend Suella Braverman is quite close. She's on the brink.
So let me just, Camilla, let me just say this again. My party, under Kemi and her leadership, over the last 12 to 18 months, look at what we have achieved in being focused. We're on the side of the British people. We're not on the side of people that want to participate in political dramas and work out where they're going to get their next political job title for, or political egos. My party is clear about this. We care about our country. We are not here to carry people that basically just want to relitigate the past, go on about what their futures are, because the public are not interested in that. And just a point on that as well. That equally applies to the Labour Party.
No, fair enough.
And the way that they're consumed with their own political psychodrama.
Don't upset your enemy when they're in the process of making a mistake.
It's a valid point.
These messages that Rebecca Harris, the Chief Whip, Shadow Chief Whip, I should say, summarised the feeling around Jenrick in the party. You're a bloodsucker. I mean, would you agree with that?
Well, I think, first of all, when you look at his conduct, not a team player, attacking his own colleagues, it's not as if we're going to give him a bunch of flowers. So, you know, he's said what he's had to say. We're over it. We're moving forward. We're on the side of the British people, and that's what my party is concerned with.
Very quickly before you go, being on the side of the British people might be forming a pact to stop the loony left, as the Mail on Sunday are putting it this morning, electoral calculus saying, between you, Tories and Reform can mop up seats in the red wall and the blue wall, keep Labour and the left out, if you form some kind of coalition.
The answer to that is no. And by the way, Reform are not Conservatives at all. Look at their policies on the economy.
They've got a few ex-Conservatives.
Well, they'll have to resolve that now. On welfare, they want higher welfare bills. They back Labour on getting rid of the two-child policy, on all this
British
kind of stuff.
Parents
that's simply not right. That is. Let's be very clear about this. Right. And I'm a former employment minister that legislated to reduce the welfare budget and get people back into work, which is what we believe in. So they're not Conservatives, and they're making it up as they go along. They're National Socialists in terms of their conduct.
But even if a lonely left coalition was going to come in, you'd have to do something to stop that.
They are not
Priti
Conservatives, and my party is focused on being pure, you know, literally standing up for the British people and standing up for Conservative values and beliefs.
Dame Priti Patel, punchy performance this morning. Good to hear it. Good to hear it in the studio.